All right, so earlier this week, Steph and I went to this amusement center called Activate. And Activate is it's sort of like an arcade, like if you imagine a like a reality, an Amazing Race sort of style, like full body game mixed with an arcade where everything's automated. There's different difficulty settings and modes, and we tried it out for the first time. So I'll run this video as I'm chatting about the general idea, and then I'll point out my experiences with the specific games. So the kind of conceit, sort of like full body activities involving buttons and lights and lasers, and they have a bunch of different rooms with the different games, and you have the wristband on. It keeps track of your score, lets you go in and out of rooms, and you go in groups of 2 to 5 players, and you only play in each room with your group, which is really nice. You get to play, you don't have to play with like strangers or anything like that. It's actually really interesting in that the rooms are set up in such a way that you don't interact with anybody else. Like you enter through one side, you exit through the other. You don't have that awkward scenario of you're going in as other people are coming out, which is really nice. Jay, if this is in Ontario, yes, this is in Burlington. Actually, there are places there's another one in Winnipeg. I believe there are some of these in the States as well. And a lot of different activities to try out. So one of the ones, oh, that's the double jump video. That's not what we wanted. How do I go back? Okay, here we go. So let's talk about some more experiences. You get a wristband that lets you enter the different games, the different rooms, and there's 10 different difficulty settings. There's competitive modes, co-op modes. You can set that to whatever you want. And some of the rooms, like this game here, I can't remember what it's called, but you're throwing the balls at the targets, and they have different modes of like they show you a color, like a sequence at the top, and you have to throw the balls at the targets that match. This one was actually really tiring. A lot of fun though. And they have one of like, they'll show you a sequence of lights that you have to hit, and then you have to hit those targets in that order. That one was really cool. Surprisingly tiring. They had this laser one where you're shooting targets and then you have to crawl under the lasers. That was kind of cool. There was the laser game. This one was pretty intense because it's a laser room, right? It's like a 20 by 20 room, and there's a whole bunch of lasers that show up in different formations, and you might have to jump over a laser or crawl under a laser. One of the ones they did was that they had the lasers turn off and on in a way to create a wall, so that you actually had to walk at a very specific speed to go through it. It was really cool. Very tiring though. One of my favorites was this laser game. This one is I can't remember what it's called, but there's an eye in the room. It's a 4-sided wall, or 4 walls with 4 sides. It's a standard room, and there's an eye on each wall. You have to hit the buttons in sequence, so there's a numerical order 1 through 20 something. You have to hit them in order, but then one of the eyes will light up after a couple of seconds, and once it's on, you lose a heart if it sees you. So you kind of have to hide behind the pillar and not move so that the eye doesn't see you. That one was interesting. Steph and I, it took a little bit for us to figure out how to hide because it was cool. It was cool. This one was interesting as well. It's not really rock climbing per se, because you're only like a foot off the ground, though the platform your feet's on is very thin. Like it's, maybe the width of a Switch game. And what you have to do as you're climbing around it is that you have to touch the grips that light up blue before you get to the end. And on top of that, you also have to avoid the red ones, and the red ones move. So you're kind of constantly shifting your grip on top of trying to move across the wall. It's pretty neat. When you buy, I think it's 20 in Canadian, it's like $25 for 75 minutes. It's enough and it's 75 minutes of playtime. Like you can take a break and then come back, and it's all being timed on your wristband. So you can play, you can take a break, come back, and 75 minutes is definitely enough to try every single game. We ended up playing mostly trivia basketball. It was the first one we did, and this one was such where the backboards light up, they're different colors, and then they ask you a trivia question, and you have to shoot the ball into the right hoop in order to get the answer correct. Any wrong answers and you'll lose hearts at the top. This one was a lot of fun. Oh man, this room was really intense. So the variation that we played was that you had to step on all the blue tiles plus any of the lit up buttons in this room while avoiding the red tiles, which were constantly moving before getting back to the green safe zone. It was exhausting. Also, this room is L-shaped, so you can't see everything in one go. It's a very cool experience. This one was neat as well. This one was they give you a word that you have to unscramble and then spell by putting the ball with the corresponding letter. But when you put the ball in the hole, you don't know where it's going to come out. So you have to have your team spread out around the room and then figure out which letters to spell and put the ball in. That one was pretty neat. And that one was less about physical dexterity and more about, problem solving. As with this one, there was a couple of games with the light wall you could play. One of them was find this light formation. They gave you a 3x3 grid and they lit up the lights in a sequence, and you had to find that sequence on the wall. And not just the sequence, but they can rotate the lights as well. So it was really tricky trying to figure that out. And then they also had like a bomb mode where there'd be certain lights. This isn't TCG. Yeah, and we're in the intermission right now. We're gonna get back to it in a sec. Also, I hope you're doing all right. There's a bomb mode where there are light. You touch the unlit buttons, which then explode in 8 different directions, and you only get a certain number of bombs, and you have to place them in the right spots to explode the lights, which is very neat. And again, another one that doesn't require physical dexterity. It's more about problem solving. And so overall, like, it's a really... Oh, this one was cool too. This one was sort of a sort of Foursquare-ish, where they would light up panels on the ground and they'd say, stand on green, and then you have to run in 3 seconds to get to the thing. Stand on green over here, and it would constantly move. And yes, it was very physically demanding, but it was a lot of fun. And I will say, overall, the experience at Activate, whether it's, one local here, one in your area, it's a really neat amusement attraction that is a lot of fun. You can play it with just your group. You're not worrying about playing with different groups or anything like that. It's got lots of different activities, difficulty settings. You can tune it to however you want. You can play whatever games you want, and it's not just like one thing, like a miniature golf or a laser tag, where that's the only thing they have. Lots of different activities, ton of fun. I highly recommend it. Looks really cool. Didn't know this place existed. It was mostly adults. They recommend it for adults, but there are kids and teenagers there as well. And again, you don't really you might run into people in line at specific rooms, but you're not playing any of the games with anyone you don't know. So yeah, highly recommend. I think the max group size is 5, so if you've got like a big group, you might want to split up into teams, or you can mix up your teams as you go. But it's definitely a place worth checking out.